Well, folks, I thought it was time for a serious video. I've done a lot of not serious videos recently, and I thought to myself, Tony, settle down and make a serious video. And I wanted to talk about this idea of being a sex robot. Now you probably think, well, obviously, Tony, you're a sex robot. I mean, look at you, obviously. But it's not what you think. I am, in fact, not a sex robot, and that's the problem. The problem is that I should be a sex robot. Because if you're not a sex robot, it's a struggle out there. It's a real struggle out there to not be a sex robot. So you're probably wondering, Tony, this is it. You've finally done it. You've reached the end. All right? You've completely lost your mind. You've somehow convinced yourself that the best way to approach life is to be a sex robot. I told you this is a serious video, so it's not like there's no giggling going on here, right? So what am I talking about being a sex robot? Well, it's the idea, the very simple idea that really the only thing we're programmed to do is have sex, procreate, and then that's it. That's really our main purpose, right? Which is such a interesting thing to even begin with, this idea of like, when was that first cell, that first organism that had it inside itself to want to procreate? Such a strange thing, right? This desire to procreate and spread your seed. You know, they say life started with single-celled organisms and all of a sudden it spread. When was that first notion of like wanting to spread your seed and multiply? It's a crazy thing, right? But that's all we're really doing. We're a bunch of cells, you know, that want to multiply and create more of itself. So we're basically sex robots. And the thing that really amazes me is not that, because that's really obvious and it's not really that mysterious. But the thing that makes me laugh is how often I run into guys or just people in general that are just like, they think they're just like being some cool version of themselves. They're like, oh, I just like to bang chicks and, you know, like date hot chicks and just like have awesome time. And it's like, you wonder to yourself, and if you tell them like, well, yeah, of course you want to bang hot chicks, and because that's what you're programmed to do. You're a robot. You're a sex robot. And they look at you like, what do you mean? I'm just a cool dude who likes to bang hot chicks. I mean, that's just kind of my thing. It's kind of something I just like to do. I'm really into that. And you tell them, well, no, you're programmed to be a sex robot, so of course you like banging chicks. That's your only purpose, is to bang chicks and procreate, right? To the point where really everything we do is kind of just to bang a chick. Fame, success, a nice car, nice house, making yourself look good, wearing nice clothes. Basically every single thing we do is to bang chicks. You're a sex robot that's designed to spread your seed, and then that's it. So now that's an obvious thing, right? That's not really that mysterious. But it amazes me still how often I'll run into somebody who is surprised by that because they think they're just being cool. Like, no, I'm just like a cool guy that likes to bang chicks. That's just kind of what I'm into. Without even... But the funny thing is there's not even any irony in it. They just like, they'll say it with a straight face. Like, that's just something they're into. That's just their thing. And it's strange that like, they don't even understand that, of course, that's what you're programmed to do. Like, they think it's just like some cool hobby that they like to do, something they're into. You know, human awareness is a strange thing because awareness is it's a weird thing because it goes at so many different levels, and there's 8 billion human beings, and you think that a human being is just generally a human being. But it doesn't really work that way. There's just different levels of being a human being, and you can be stuck in a very robotic, primitive part where literally all you are is a sex machine. But the irony of that is not even so much that you're a sex machine. The irony of that is that you're not even aware that you're a sex machine. That's the crazy part, you know? I saw a video of a dog earlier today on Reddit, because I like looking in the awe section in Reddit, and it's always like cute dogs and stuff. And this dog, this puppy, they opened the cage and they put a food bowl right on the bottom outside of the cage. And the puppy was so excited to go for the food that the puppy was trying to get through the cage to reach the food that was outside of the cage. But they already opened the cage door, but instead the puppy was looking straight forward because the cage door was over here. The food was dropped right in front of him, and the puppy's looking that way, but the cage door is to the left of him, and they opened the cage door. And instead of him like coming out of the cage door and going to the food, he's trying to go through the cage door to get the food, and he's like trying to like break apart the cage door. He has no concept of just move left and like the cage is wide open. And that's kind of like what it's like to be a human before you learn how to look left. You have tunnel vision of being a sex robot. That's really your main objective, is to go through anything, to dominate, to kill, to survive, just to spread your seed. You're just looking straight forward. You basically have tunnel vision to be a sex robot. And then one day somehow you look to the left of you and notice the cage is wide open, and then your whole world expands. Now, the issue with your whole world expanding is that sounds sexy, like, ooh, now I'm evolved and my world has expanded, and that sounds really intriguing, like, that's really awesome. But the irony behind that is that when you look to the left of you and you notice that door and that infinite world around you, ironically, it actually makes things a little bit more complicated, because now you're left with infinite choices to make. Now you don't have that. See, because tunnel vision is simple. My job is to be a fucking machine, to procreate, and then that's my job. But when you look to the left of you and you open that cage door and you see an infinite world around you, now you have infinite possibilities. Now you're thinking to yourself, you're crippled with the thought of infinity. You know, like, out of all of infinity, how do I just choose one little portion of it to experience now? Because I thought I was just a fucking machine, but I realized I'm an infinite amount of things. You could also be a fucking machine too. That could be fun. I've heard. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. So yeah, you've looked to the left of you. You saw that infinite world out there now. Now what do? Right? That is always the ultimate question. After you wake up from being a fucking machine, what do you do after that? You're left with infinite choices. And it's a very tricky world to navigate after that, because your ambitions are different. Because when you realize all your ambitions come from you trying to find a perfect mate to have sex with and procreate, because everything is sort of a form of peacocking, right? This idea of looking the best, the house, the career, the car, your really fancy designer clothes, whatever you do to catch attention, to look really great. Now, if you're not driven by those things anymore, where does your ambition come from? Right? Because we love ambition because it's sexy, but we don't realize that mostly we have that ambition because we're fucking machines. You know, we gotta kick ass because we need to have sex and procreate. That's the whole idea. So where does your ambition come after that? That's when it becomes tricky, because what if you look to the left of you, open that cage, and after you open that cage and you stare into the infinite, you're okay with just simply being. Like, you're not desperately trying to impress or to look a certain way or to act a certain way, and you're just okay with just simply being. You're content, having small little experiences, doing a little this, doing a little that, and you don't have this psychotic ambition to succeed in one particular avenue. Like, I got to be a basketball player, I got to be this, I got to be successful at this, I got to do this. Like, you just like to go on a hike one day, the next day you like to have a coffee with a friend, and that's just your life. But then you realize that that's not a very modern way to live, because we're supposed to rip through that cage door and eat that food, or rip through that cage door and have sex, procreate. So it becomes tricky, you know? And in a weird way, I sometimes think to myself, it'd probably just be a lot more simple to just be a fucking machine. Sounds a lot more fun too. Or is it fun? I don't know. I've heard it's fun, but I wouldn't really know. So yeah, are you a fucking machine? That's something you have to ask yourself. Are you a sex robot? And that's basically the theme of this video. Are you a sex robot? And that's pretty much it. So that was a serious video. So yeah, till next time, bye.